Welcome back, everybody, to Divorce Beheaded Thrive.
Say welcome back. I just went and got a drink because I was so stressed about this.
Yeah, so we didn't have a drink earlier. I suggested, and then now we're drinking. Question number 1. Why did you go on the show?
Because I am 38 and I am so sad. Well, I don't want to ask the question, what is wrong with you?
Aww.
And I didn't have much experience with Married at First Sight. I hadn't watched it before my friend Katie told me to apply, because she told me all about it and told me how perfect I was for it. And so I applied the year before. And I was so excited by the prospect of that, because I'm 38 and I can't say that I've had one healthy relationship.
Aww.
The ones I've had have been abusive in every way that you can come up with. Not all of them, but none of them have been good. And yet to experience someone who doesn't sleep with someone else.
Gosh.
I've never known that. And my last serious partner was a long time ago. We broke up when I was 30, 31. Then I moved to Manchester because I was so excited by the prospect of actually being in a very gay city and being able to meet loads of gay guys and thinking, well, you know what? Like, I have tried this and I've tried that. I am a trier. I put myself out there. I'm not afraid of being hurt. I desperately, desperately hope that they would find me someone. I was so excited, and the primary reason to go on that TV show was to find love. And I think you can ask any producer and they will tell you that. They knew that from me. I think they knew I was going to be one of the hearts in the show. Yeah.
They knew who was there for that.
Well, I wanted to find love. And I still do. And you know what? Sometimes I can go into these moments where I'm like really strong and I'm being powerful and I'm like, I'm having my single life and fuck you. I'll drop it all for a fucking husband and the kids tomorrow.
I was going to say, I'm right in thinking...
I'm an independent man. I do what I want. Oh, right, you want to get married? Yeah. I'll do it later.
I'm right in thinking as well, you want a family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm worried about that because I do also feel that there is a clock on me. I know it's not biological, but I still feel...
No, that's fair, because everybody wants kids at different ages for different reasons. God, some people want them in their 20s because they want to be a super young parent and then be free when they're older.
I'd have had babies at 20.
Would you?
I'd have had babies at 20. I would have had children so young. I would have... Look, my parents did. My mum was 18, my dad was 19. Wow. And I loved that about them. And I will... hopefully won't be forever, but so far, I just really wish that I wasn't gay and that I could just go and have that. What I've always wanted.
Aww.
I've always wanted that 2.4 children life.
I'm very emotional.
So, so that's what I want, and that's what I've always wanted. And that is not to say, as well, like, this is the point that I was trying to make, was that it didn't mean that I wasn't also very excited to have a director and to go on a set and to be on television and to be a little bit famous for a minute and to have people ask me for selfies and, like, because what a fun experience. Then anyone who says that that's, like, what's wrong with wanting to experience that? I ain't selling my soul for fame. I ain't doing anything like that. I think I was genuinely myself, and I think I stayed true to what I believe in, and I have since. I haven't sold anyone under the river. People always apologise when they come up to you on the street and they're like, so sorry to bug you, and I'm like, no, it's lovely. It's lovely. There's been very few occasions when it's bothered me, and that's only because just maybe on that day, I'm just sorry, I'm not necessarily
in the mood.
Like, I don't just I might be having a moment myself, and I don't necessarily want to take a selfie that day, but that doesn't matter. That's fine. I'm not angry at a person. They seem happy to have met me, and how grateful am I that someone is happy to have met me.
It's a very weird concept, one that I do struggle with now. Just thinking about it is wild. So our journeys to the point of getting married were quite different. I had a much longer sort of like casting process.
I was bash. It was so fast. They didn't have any time to prep for me, so I got pushed right in.
So you only had those 5 weeks to prepare. Did you feel...
3
weeks? Gosh. Did you feel like, that night before that wedding and when you woke up, were you like, I'm ready for this? Or were you like... fuck, this has come around really quick? Were you even mentally there yet?
No. They could have said you're getting married tomorrow, and I'd have been there.
Right. Yeah.
I was ready.
Right. You didn't need that.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I needed nothing. A suit.
Were there. Yeah.
And if I didn't have that, I'd have got by.
Okay, so you were completely sort of mentally ready. You were there dressed in the morning. What were your emotions like that morning?
The night before, I had got into the shower and I got some soap in my eye, and my eye went fully swollen and fully bloodshot. Like there was nothing I could go and get.
Yeah.
Like, it was late at night now. It's too late. And I think it was a Sunday. The next day I wake up and my eye is still the same way. So that's the only thing I can focus on.
Yes.
Not only is it you went it on telly.
Yeah.
And my eye is so bloodshot and swollen. And it was, honestly, it was horrific. Up to about 10 minutes before the wedding, when finally, executive producer, thank you, Susie, went.
Susie.
And I've been asking these producers, please get me eye drops, get me eye drops.
Yeah.
And then I tried to go and get them, and they were, you can't go that way. And I'm like, well, I need to, because Thomas is there.
We're
in the same venue. This is the first time we're in the same building. So they won't let me move. But I'm like, you get them then. They
wouldn't let you leave the room. It was, because you literally could not see each other or anything.
No, and my problem with Thomas's is that they were filming his fucking horse and cart and shit.
Forgot about that.
So I couldn't even see windows.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Tom, babe.
So how did you feel standing there waiting? Did they just go turn around now?
Yeah, so you're stood there. I had a bit of a chat with his mom.
Yeah, and you realised he was Scouse, obviously.
And then they looked so happy about the fact that I was Scouse. Like, that seemed like it ticked a really big box to them. The producer then comes and says, right now, you have to look away. And so they go 3, 2, 1, and you turn around, and that was it. There was my husband, there was Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And that became, I think it's fair to say for both of us, we both knew fairly quickly we didn't get what we asked for.
Yeah, that was my next question, was, true honesty. What was your first impression?
Yeah, I knew I didn't get what I asked for.
Yeah.
I knew that. But I also knew it hadn't worked out with people that I'd wanted before. So yeah, no, Thomas was not what I expected, and I don't think that he will mind me saying that. I knew within 0.4 seconds that Thomas was a very big character.
Yes.
And I was expecting that love at first sight moment that, oh my gosh, I really fancy them, they really fancy me, we're going to have the best time of our lives. And chances are that was turned out shit anyway if it did happen. But that's what I was expecting to happen, wasn't it? And so when that didn't happen, I don't like to use the word disappointed.
No.
But yeah, that I guess so.
Disappointed isn't necessarily the word, but you're allowed to be like, that's
no,
not what I asked for.
I'm not disappointed in Thomas.
No, but at that moment,
now,
you didn't know anything about him. All you saw was him bounding down the aisle and like your first impression.
With this fucking false tan. And our wedding picture, everyone else's wedding pictures was in colour, and mine and Thomas's was in black and white. And we are determined, both of us are determined, that that's because he was fucking glowing. It was interesting to see how actually, though, his suit was like this really sharp grey colour. And, he looked, I don't know that he would dress for his wedding the same way today that he did then. He went for smart shoes and a smart jacket, big bow tie, and he had his nails painted, and they were gay flags on his nails, which is not to my taste. But I liked that he's there for that.
Yes, yeah.
I think being an advocate for gay people, for LGBTQ plus, the queer community on television was a very important thing for both of us, and I think that we both presented it in very different ways.
Yes. I think that was fantastic. Obviously, first impressions and things weren't great in the way of both of you were very unsure about, who you'd been given. But how did you feel at the end of that day? Obviously, you spend the night together. It's very much sort of prompted that you share a bed and things like that. So how did you feel at the end of that day?
Well, I sort of felt shell-shocked all day long, and then I don't think it actually helped me that my friends and everyone were there. I think I'd have managed it so much better had I been alone. But yeah, so by the end of the day, we got to do our final shoot together, which was the first time that we'd shot together alone, and that was much nicer. And Thomas gave me a goodie bag full of loads of toys. He gave me sex toys. He gave me chocolate dicks. He gave me loads of things, and he wrote this card for me.
Stop!
And it was a gorgeous card, and he got me a t-shirt saying boyfriend, fiance, husband, and boyfriend and fiance were crossed out.
Oh, cute!
And he got me so much stuff, and I didn't get him anything, and I felt bad about that. And it was lovely, and I knew from that gift bag that he did want something.
Moving on to the honeymoon, really hard. Those arguments were tough, and it looked like he just hated you the whole time. So what was that like to live it? And I mean, did you lose a bit of hope then?
It was like playing chess, and I just wasn't ready to make my next move. I just didn't know what that was, and I needed time to figure it out. I remember I dressed in a white Ralph Lauren shirt and some shorts, and I had my glasses on with the leather rope around them. And I do remember that day, I looked somewhat Saint-Tropez. We looked completely different.
Yeah.
And I remember he put these ridiculous leopard skin fucking stuck in tiny pants on that had his ass out. Thomas has got bang and bod. Thomas, those fucking guns on that man. He's got such big arms. He's got a great arse. He's got a great everything. Thomas has. Thomas has got a very good everything, actually. I don't think you'll mind me saying it.
No, I don't think you will mind you saying that.
It's sad in hindsight because I think my outfit of looking prim and proper and I'm about to go and sit and sip a fucking espresso by the side of the mountain, as opposed to him being he's going to jump on a fucking inflatable and party with disco lights on. I don't think that commuted with him, and I think it made him feel I was more of a conservative sort of chap from some posh background or something like that, which is furthest from the truth you could ever come up with. I'm so far.
The honeymoon's scary though. Even though it was nice, you're far away from home. You don't have your phone,
and you feel it.
You feel it's tough. Were you sharing a room
for the first couple of days, and then we weren't?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because it was just too tumultuous.
Right.
The executive producer had told me that I had to go into another room. Then Tom was upset with me because I had gone into another room. A few days later, I was like, do you think I chose this? And then we had the blow up around the pool, and he's like, you're a fucking around the pool. And it was awful because the camera doesn't show it. There's other people around the pool.
See, that's
a tiny pool
for me.
So the hotel had a big pool and a small pool for the kids. This is the small pool. But that day, that argument was the most important. I was alone for the next 4 or 5 hours. I myself sat by the pool and I didn't know what to do. And then Thomas came down and I caught him and I grabbed him. And he was like, I'm not fucking talking. And I started crying. And I was like, I need you to speak to me. And I got very upset. And I was like, stop fighting with me because I'm not fighting you.
Yeah.
I'm not a threat to you. I'm not going to come at you. Please. I was crying my eyes out and I was like, the only thing that I will ever show you is support, please. And then he flipped.
Yeah.
And he started to become the protector.
Yeah.
Because I'm upset, then he started to become the carer. And then he's like, you fucking get upset now, so you fucking stop crying. While I'm crying, he shouted at the barman and he's like, get me a gin and tonic. And I was like, yeah.
Oh, this is the thing though, you don't know how each other communicate. This is a stranger at the end of the day. And you might think that you deal with things quite well generally, which you do as a general assumption. I would say the same about myself. But you put another person into the mix where, it's a loose cannon. You're so out of control as well. No wonder you were upset. It's so overwhelming. I don't think, I'm sure people would think it was, but honestly, foreign country, stranger pretty much. You've just been wed, and then it's awful when bad things happen.
It's so hard. But the bad thing was probably the best conversation we had.
Yeah.
That was the turning point. That was how we came to a head to be able to move forward. He's coming at me hell blazing because he's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I am pulling away from him because I'm uncomfortable. You know, it was this tug of war.
So it was all good after then?
Yeah, we went on the cars in Mexico.
Right.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. He says he hates it. He's a liar. You're a liar.
Were you excited to come back, meet people, move into the apartment, or were you scared?
Of the other couple?
No, of moving in.
Yeah, I probably was a little nervous about that. Yeah, and I think he was as well. He hasn't ever told me that, but I'd imagine he was. A lot of the time we would fight. You know, after the honeymoon, we had those 4 days apart, and we probably needed that.
From first impressions, who was your standouts? Who were you closest to when you had that dinner party?
Yeah, so the very first dinner party, I think we walked into George and April, and she had this long red dress on with a slit down the leg. And I remember it being very sexy, and she had strappy shoes, and I remember everything about the first time I saw April. Everything. And April came and sat on my lap. And I remember thinking, you're trouble. From 0
Day dot,
I was like, you are trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know why yet, but something about you.
You soon found out.
Makes me nervous. Like I said when I met you and Jonathan, I said something then made me nervous.
Yeah.
And it transpired that it did. And then met Jess, really liked Jess very quickly. I very clearly remember meeting Shanita, and she made me feel warm very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I was very fucking happy to meet Shanita. And I really buzzed off of George. I really liked George as well. Everyone says Adrian fancy George. Like, I never. But like, I was like, oh, he's fit. I didn't really fancy him. I thought Duke was fit. I didn't fancy him.
Yeah.
So then we go through to the dinner party, and I'm sat next to Whitney and Duco. It was palpable, the tension. It was not good. And he stood up and gave a toast, and she just sat there. And she's Rachel. So then Jess is clearly not into PJ, but very clearly into Duca. But they didn't show this on TV. I don't know why. Because Jess was clearly into Duca. Like, very clearly. It was obvious. But then Whitney, by the end of the night, is getting ratty that Jess is into.
Right.
Because it was so obvious.
Oh, dear.
And poor PJ just sat there like fucking lemon. And Thomas just was all over Keisha like a rash. Loved her. Like absolutely loved her. He then says on his box, like, who do you think she is, walking in with sunglasses on when she's inside? But then in the next episode, me and him are moving to our apartment, and he's sat there having a full conversation with me in his sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you dickhead.
Love it. That was so funny.
Which is so funny. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the piss out of that forever for him. The thing is, like, you make cherished memories fighting with Thomas.
Yeah.
The amount of
God.
memories, because the amount of times now, and I genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart, like the amount of times we rowed and then we laugh so many more times about those rows.
Yeah. So you were obviously living together at this point. Like, I have a question for you, but sleeping in a bed together and everything like that, like, I could not imagine not sleeping with or like not kissing the person that I was like matched with and spending that much time with, and sleeping in the same bed and all of that. So I mean, where was the sexual attraction at this point? So what's your I'm genuinely just intrigued.
Well, it wasn't. We didn't have sexual attraction. We didn't have that. We had a hell of a lot to get through before that. So for us, I would say we followed the rules. This is what you want to do in order to move forward. And we started off on so far back. So then when we're becoming closer, and it became very important to me, I made a very big decision. Tom has to trust me before I trust him. So I had to make certain, that became my priority, that Tom trusted me 1,000%. That is what was necessary for me. And I needed to prove that to him, because he was not ready to trust anyone. Yeah. He needed to trust me first. It became very much a goal of mine. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. Make certain that Tom knew someone would love him, someone would protect him, someone would be there for him, and someone would stand by for him, and someone would be their person. That became a bigger goal than the end goal of marriage. And to protect the relationship that we were building, no matter what that relationship became important. we weren't sure what that relationship was.
Yeah.
We probably know, but I think we both held hope.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sexual.
Yeah.
Until one time, which was the reunion. We went back to the hotel, and all of that evening I was having, I don't know what he was feeling, but I was having all sorts of one opinion against the wall sort of feelings all night. And it was the first time it happened. And I had put that down to the cameras were away. They've gone in their box and they're not coming back. I felt able to breathe then.
The pressure was off at that point. So maybe there was no pressure on it to be something.
But we'd also built something beautiful by then as well.
Yeah.
You know, we'd been through so much together. I came from so fucking far. You know, when Matt pulled me and he was like, this is fake, I was like, fuck you. Don't you fucking dare. Because I have worked my fucking ass off.
Yeah.
Thomas has worked his fucking ass off, and you didn't give it a day.
No.
You didn't give it a day.
Yeah, it wasn't right coming from him. I would say, though, and that's why I asked the sexual attraction thing, is that, like, obviously, from an outsider's perspective, or as a viewer, it was very much more like a platonic friendship.
But no one told me that it didn't have to be.
True, I mean,
People just told me, the experts kept on saying, you guys wait, this is special. Whatever you have is special. Keep going.
I suppose it's different for everyone.
I'm being told now I'm getting gold envelopes through the door, giving me tasks to do, and I do all the tasks. We did everything that we were asked of, but we weren't fucking. But how well did it go for all the couples that did fuck? So I'm sorry, I still stand by the choices I made.
That's fair.
And we didn't need to enter a sexual relationship. And if we had, I don't think we could have a relationship now, maybe.
Yeah, fair enough.
To be perfectly honest, it wasn't worth the risk for me until I knew it. And I would have potentially risked it afterwards. And that night after the reunion, I remember once in the lift, and then once we were in Gemma's hotel room and Gemma went to the bathroom. And I felt very like I wanted to move towards him. and I went to bed. Devastated.
Right, okay.
I took myself to bed because I was like, I don't know what this is.
Right.
I don't know what.
Gosh,
I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm worried about that. And then at the end of the Christmas episode, it didn't. I don't think the cameras saw it, but we ended up kissing at the end of the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
He has a bit of a neck. And then he got whisked off in the car, and I got whisked back to my room until we didn't see each other.
Yeah. So it's never been kind of fully pursued, but equally you don't want it to change. Yeah, that relationship.
It will never be pursued.
No.
And it's not the relationship that I want with him.
No, it's
but I have my moments.
Yeah.
And we did snog in the fake snow. Christmas a bit.
Aww.
Which was, you know what?
Romance.
Really nice.
Yeah. So moving a little bit further into the experiment, and I'm sure a lot of people will have this question. Your relationship with George and what happened at that commitment ceremony where on telly you got cut off. That was a big talking point.
Yes, it was a very big talking point, and people still ask me now what was cut.
Yeah, even Paul spoke up about it because he was getting grief.
Yeah, gosh, no, that was like, people went wild about that. It was the first time that I spoke up in the group. Yeah. And I was shut down.
It was a very, I'll say I was there in the room. It was a very passionate exchange.
I'm not taking sides because I think it was I personally believe my experience on George and April's relationship is they were toxic for each other.
And I would concur, yeah.
So there'd been so much leading up to that. George had come to our apartment and Tom had gracefully left the apartment, and me and him had a very big heart-to-heart about his relationship with April and how unhappy he was, how much he didn't trust her, how she wasn't able to, at that point, recite his children's names. You know, that's a lot.
Yes. I mean, what?
And it was true as well.
Yeah. No, I know.
And he couldn't trust her. Two producers knock on my door. They know the conversation is happening, and they come in and they say, listen, can we video the conversation? And I say to George, listen, George, this is your opportunity. And they then say, well, listen, just so you know, April and Whitney are currently having a conversation and they're being videoed.
Right.
And so I felt compelled to support George and be like, listen, George, I'll help you through this, but we need to do this and it needs to be on camera. You need to do this on camera.
Yeah.
But I do remember sitting there thinking, you're letting me do a lot of the talking for you. Where I was being, I was like, well, George, you've told me this, and you've told me this, and you've told me this, and this is how you feel. And these are all the things that you said before the camera came into the room. So mine and George's relationship, I think, became a threat to April.
Yeah.
I mean, people said it on the show, like when it was on TV, that me and George had a thing for each other. I loved George. I loved him. But me and George would go away and have loads of private conversations.
You were very close, yeah.
Very close. And we would disappear all the time and we would go and chat. And we would talk about so much stuff.
Yeah.
And that was lovely. And we had such a lovely friendship. And I've always been very compelled towards a heterosexual man who I can have a platonic relationship with because I don't find it often.
Yes.
So when I do find it, and I feel so comfortable in my skin, and they feel comfortable near me, I find that compelling. It's not sexual.
And he's like an emotional, sensitive guy. He's very, very much so, you know. So I'm sure, it was kind of easy to have that relationship, and you're all each other's confidant. But So
back to the commitment ceremony. So I was angry because we'd had this big conversation where George was essentially breaking up with April, and that was it. And he was damning her to hell, and he said all these horrific things about her. And then the next day, he flipped it, but he flipped it on Thomas. And I was like, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
You fuck off. I'm not having that. Not a chance on earth. No, don't fuck with me. Don't make me look like a prick. You fuck off. No. And don't make Thomas the scapegoat for your wife again. Like, you know, the thing with Thomas and April and Shanita, that whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Shanita that night was socialising with me and George. But April spun it the next day because April called Shanita to say, do you want a cup of tea? Because she wanted to tell her that Thomas had said those nasty things about her.
Snide, to try and get her on side.
The fact that you've done that makes you stink a fucking snake.
Yes. Yes, because what was the reason?
And so then it all got spun on Thomas, and I wasn't having that.
No, good for
It
you.
wasn't fair, so I kept my mouth shut, and I was like, I'm figuring this shit out. I'm going to take my time for it. And I did. And there was a whole thing where Thomas supposedly threw a drink at April and she told everyone he did. But I was there and I watched it and he fucking never. So when that commitment ceremony happened, I said all of that, which never aired on TV. I was like, listen, April, I've watched you, I've got you, I have kept my mouth shut so you didn't see me as a threat. But I have been watching you non-stop and I've had enough of this. George, don't you fucking stop because you were in my apartment last night saying this, and fucking this about your wife. And now you've spun it because she's sat next to you and there's cameras here and there's experts here and there's the whole cast here. And you've spun it now. And you can spin whatever the fuck you want. I don't care if you go in a different direction. Don't spin it in my husband's direction. He will not be your scapegoat because as a pain in the arse as Thomas is, he was a lot of people's scapegoats.
This kind of leads on to my next question, actually. Okay, on that.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, people may have used Thomas as a scapegoat, but how did you feel when all of these things would happen? Like everything would kick off, you'd be screaming at people, and you kind of walked into the dinner parties like not knowing what to expect. And everybody has, April felt very, like he was attacking her. April also did shit all the time, that would do all of that. I know that.
So I had no sympathy for April.
Fine.
None.
Okay, other people though. Okay, me for example, or other people.
He did go for you that time.
Okay, but how did you feel? Where did that leave you in your head? And like also with me, I remember you apologised to me the next day.
Yeah.
You were like, "That's not right."
Yeah, because I wasn't happy about that because he had shouted at you and it was over the top and it wasn't unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I think he was putting you in the bracket with Jonathan, and I was like, it's not fair. I can understand his responses and his reactions to things at times, but it's not something that I will justify. But it just made me feel good all the time. I'd be like, oh, fucking hell, what's happening next?
Yeah. But I think a lot of it was alcohol induced and a lot of the
I think it was alcohol induced. I think it was, and I think I've always said, well, I've said it to Thomas and I've said it to Thomas's mum, and she agreed with me. Alcohol is not Thomas's friend. friend. I made it very clear that I wouldn't speak about alcohol on camera with Tom, and I said that to Tom. And then he did choose to speak about it.
Right.
He's chosen to speak about it a lot since.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
It was definitely a thing that was not great for Tom.
Moving on a bit further, I feel like this was a big moment. Your homestays.
Which one?
Well, his. It was quite a difficult watch. Like, it was quite awkward, and then obviously his parents were quite one-sided in their response as to how they felt, about you not being together or not being sure. What was it like on that homestay?
With his parents?
Yeah, with his friends.
The thing is, I had a really nice time with his parents. With his friends, it was difficult because I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, Beth, stop banging on about sex. Yeah. And then afterwards, I said something about sex to Beth, and she was like, oh, I can't talk about that. I was like, all right, but you have no problem whatsoever with asking me about it on a fucking TV show.
Yeah.
So, didn't love that. His mate Sarah was lovely. And that's what I said. I didn't mind his mate Bev either. She was nice as well. She just kept on banging on about sex. And then she said that she acted because the producer told her. And I was like, well, I don't know who to believe because I don't really care. Because as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to do what producers tell you to do.
Yeah.
But I understand that you're not experienced in this. So I get it. It's fine. Like, I have no bother with Bev. Yeah. I see Bev tomorrow. I don't mind giving her a fucking kiss. Not bothered. Yeah. But I doubt she'd give me one. But, I don't care. His mum and dad, his mum was just doing that thing of, I just don't see this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was it. I just don't see it. Where I was still in this mind frame of, we are still working. We're still trying.
Right.
We're still trying for this. So, but no, his mum and dad weren't unkind to me whatsoever. I mean, his dad is sweetie pie. Yeah, it didn't look like they were unkind. It just was, I feel like a bit of a, not a turning point, but it was quite like, it was kind of the moment that Tom... No, it was. Well, yes. It was a big turning point. Yeah, because that's also when Tom went, wait a minute, like, this is not... It was... Well, Tom didn't speak. While we're there, we started talking to his mum and dad, and I just look at him and I go, what the fuck's wrong with you? So, what are you fucking doing? Why are you being so quiet? And I was so annoyed because I was like, why are you behaving differently? And it makes me uncomfortable. Yeah. But he felt uncomfortable in front of his parents. He wanted his parents to have a breath to speak to me. Yeah, I mean, you go from being in that bubble and then you see outside people. It's a lot. And also parents' opinion is hugely important for a lot of people. But yeah, that did seem like that changed because you had that big commitment ceremony after that where high emotions. I mean, exhausted. Do you remember watching that? Yeah. What, being in the room? Because a lot of people told me after Cass had said to me after that was it was a lot. It was heavy. It was heavy. I mean, because I was sobbing. I know you were. Whoa. Yeah, it was hard because it is hard though because what kept you there? Do you think in that moment? How come you didn't think that it was over off the back of that homestay? We had a great homestay at mine. I never had it ever ending until the end. I envisioned just going to final vows. Yeah. But the homestay was nowhere near as bad as what it looked on camera. Yes, no, I understand that. Yeah, it was nowhere near as bad. Yeah. It was a grilling. Liverpool was a grilling. Manchester was lovely. Yeah. No, I remember you saying how good Manchester was. I suppose I'm talking from like a viewer's perspective and that kind of thing. It's like, you said the same thing to me. Yeah, no, and like, it's, I suppose the only thing I'm like, other people though explored a sexual relationship and while they were on there and while the cameras were there and things. So by that point, not a chance on earth. By that point, no way. But it was always, we will keep on trying and keep on working, and the relationship is growing. The relationship is building, and that bond is strengthening, and that bond is still there now. Yeah, I suppose. Look, it's different for everyone, isn't it? And only you know that. It's the same with everyone. It's the same with me. Like, only you know in that moment where that relationship is at, and if it is, growing, then it's going in the right direction. It was, like I said at the beginning, what became important to me was protecting the relationship, no matter what that relationship was going to be in the long run. And I didn't really give a flying fuck as to whether we ended up shagging or getting married or not. What became important to me was the relationship and the protection of my husband, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether that's the reason I should have been there or not, I don't really care.
Yeah, I suppose it's like, yes, it's married
really
at
care.
first sight though, isn't it? Not friend at first sight.
Yeah, but did Channel 4 give Thomas what he wanted? No. Did Channel 4 give me what I wanted? No.
Yeah.
Did we do exactly what we were asked constantly?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You and Thomas left before the final vows. Obviously, you agreed to stay. Well, he agreed to stay. And at that moment, you were going to move on to the final vows. That was the next step. And then obviously there was that dinner party. You guys left for a really long time. We carried on the dinner party and you guys came back and you said, no, that's it.
Yeah.
So what led to that decision? And was that a very emotional decision? I mean, what?
Oh my gosh, I sobbed.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah.
That one was, oh gosh.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And when I watch it, I sob.
Yeah. There's a lot of emotions in it.
When I watched that, I cried my eyes out when it first aired. And I watched it actually 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was 3 a.m. and I couldn't sleep and I randomly put it on.
Yeah.
I still cry now. But also lovely.
Yeah.
Also so nice. And do you know what? I wish that I could end all relationships like that.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a very
amicable ending.
Till I walked back inside and had a big row. But it was a lot, and we just knew. Like I said to you, going to those final vows was heavy.
Yes.
And we knew. We always knew. Is this going to work? Probably not.
Yeah.
But we're going to try. And I think there was moments when both of us really wanted it to work.
Yeah.
And there's been times since when I've gone, you know what? Maybe it's better than ever you know. If I had a life with Thomas, I'd never be bored.
So obviously you had Jenny and Zoe, first lesbian couple. You had yourself and Thomas, gay couple. So we had 2 LGBTQIA plus couples on the show.
Yes.
Which was incredible.
Yes.
And shout out to Jenna and Zoe for still being together. I love you.
Yes. We love you.
So yeah, that was an amazing thing. And you did actually mention earlier about Thomas was very actively, he supports, so many different people, and he actively talks about that. And
he's very big on trans movement, which is the movement that needs to be pushed at the moment.
Yes.
And he's so big on that.
Yeah.
And I support him wholeheartedly on that. I think we had to move to a way of understanding each other's ways of being.
Yeah.
I came home one day, Thomas has put fucking gay flags all in my plant pots, and I'm like, absolutely not, get them out. I live my life as a man who's gay.
Yes. Yeah.
Where Thomas is more active in his approach.
Yes.
It's more of a purpose for him to want to go out of his way to fight. I fight in different ways.
Yes.
I fight by, I've been in education for years. I've supported teenagers for years. Being gay is not my identity.
Yeah.
I believe I'm a man who has always wanted to be heterosexual, probably, which is because of my experience and my love and my life. But it was always very important for how I presented gay people on TV. And to be perfectly honest, me and Thomas were the polar opposite, but both great.
Yeah.
Both doing great things. He's there. It was very important when he walked in the silver boots and the makeup and the jacket, and he's there and he looks fantastic. And I was there in a full suit. I proudly walked in with him on my arm.
Yeah.
And that was probably the closest I'd ever felt to him. That dinner party, I remember so vividly how I had my arm around him and he was leaning on me, and it felt so important at that moment, and he felt so important to me, and I felt like I felt very masculine at the time, and I felt that all I wanted was for him to stay in that arm. I didn't want him to move, and I wanted him to be there, and I felt very proud of him, and I felt, it was very important for both of us to show these are the gay men that we represent.
Yes. And whilst they're both gay, they are vastly different.
Wildly different from each other.
Which is amazing.
And Jenna is wildly different from me and Thomas. And Zoe is wildly different from me and Thomas and Jenna. Yeah. We're all wildly different. And I actually do not think that Married at First Sight is given the recognition that it deserves for the gay, what's the word?
Representation.
The gay representation.
Yeah.
It is not given the credit that it deserves. And, you have shows like I Kissed a Boy on the BBC. And I'm like, well, actually, what is more progressive? Because you have segregated a ton of gays there.
Yes.
But what is more progressive? The segregated TV show with just gays or the TV show where actually the word gay wasn't mentioned?
Yeah.
You're just...
It's a group of people.
And there was no producer ever mentioned it.
Yeah.
No magazines mentioned it to me, but that's it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, we had no gay publications come anywhere near us, no gay magazines, one gay radio station. They spoke to me.
It's crazy
and
that.
Thomas.
It should have been.
But we had none. There was no where Jenna and Zoe were on the front of Diva magazine.
Yeah.
Where the gay magazines like Gay Times, Attitude magazine, Pink News, they had nothing to do with us. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with us. And I know that Channel 4 did try and push for it because I was insistent, because I was like, just because I'm not there physically waving a flag, I'm still waving a flag.
Yeah.
There is still space for me to have a voice as a gay man.
Of course. And you were relatable for, I would imagine, so many people, because you weren't that, necessarily yet standing there waving that flag, but you are, like you said, it's not your identity, it's just how you live your life. And other people can look to that and be like, that's like me, that's my thought process.
So I actually felt really disappointed by the gay publications who didn't seem to want to engage with us one tiny bit. And I know that, like I said, Channel 4 pushed, my agent pushed. I find that really upsetting because it's like, well, am I not gay enough? Do I not get to have a voice because I don't have glitter on my eyes? Or so what's the issue?
I don't know. I
because actually we were on a very big TV show that had a very big audience.
Yeah.
And we were representing. And we represented in a lot of ways, especially near the end, a very healthy relationship that wasn't driven by sex, which actually perpetuates the opposite of what a lot of people think about gay people. That they just sex. And we actually delivered something different.
Yeah. Yeah, no fair.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yes.
I don't like it. It winds me up, if I'm honest.
I completely understand that. I get your frustrations. I would say I think, the four of you did a fantastic job, and I think that you probably made a very big difference in a lot of people's lives looking up to you.
I hope so.
I think so. Okay. Yeah. Resounding thoughts. So, obviously, given everything now, where you're at, do you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say to Thomas or anyone on the show? Is there anything that you want to say to anyone?
But to Thomas?
Wow, yeah, either. Or anyone that you feel that's been unsaid. I mean, to
Thomas, I will say, I will love you till the day I die. Absolute tit is what he is, a tit. I'm always going to be sad that me and George don't have the friendship that I thought we were going to have. Do you know what I will say? I don't think Whitney necessarily gets the respect that she actually deserves. Whitney actually, for whatever she is what she is.
Yeah.
And she's not a trouble causer.
Agreed.
She's not a trouble causer. If anything, she puts fires out around her.
And she stays out of people's business.
She does. She does. I think Whitney took a few smacks that she didn't deserve.
Oh, it's cute. It's like nice to reminisce a bit.
It is. I'll always be grateful to Channel 4.
Yeah.
Because they gave me a phenomenal experience that I will live for the rest of my life telling stories about.
Yeah.
I will talk about this for the rest of my life because it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'll thank mostly Thomas forever.
Yeah.
And you.
I know, it's crazy, guys. Once in a lifetime.
I think that we needed to do this.
I think we did. I'm pleased for this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, thank you for coming along for the ride, everyone.
She's crying.
I know, it fucking So it's weird reminiscing on it like that. It's like you close that door, but you don't. It keeps opening and opening, and you're like
You don't
pushing
necessarily get the choice.
No, yes, exactly. But yeah, it's amazing. And we're sat here to tell the tale, even if we're not with our partners. There's a lot to say for this friendship and other friendships. And
We won.
yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Or good day.
Yeah, whenever you're watching this. Oh, see you next time.
Bye-bye.